So this is swamp milkweed, which I think should be renamed fragrant milkweed because it actually is kind of fragrant, especially like right after the shade hits it. It smells like warm cupcakes out of the oven or some sort of generic dessert kind of smell to it. But anyway, this is Asclepias incarnata, which is a host-plant to the monarch butterfly, but it is, I haven't gotten those yet. My part of New Jersey, they don't tend to, we don't usually see them until they start to migrate south. I think the Delaware River there just kind of cuts them off, but they have these interesting little flowers here. And we have Campanata subarbatus all over this. This is my first year seeing this species on them. And it's actually kind of neat because the flowers are like little fangs on them. They're specially designed. When the bee lands there, they actually take the whole like pollen sac with it. So a whole structure of the reproductive part of the flower is actually taken away with the bee. And these flowers are designed to actually trap them when they walk on another flower. So they just basically deliver the pollen sacs from one flower to the next, and that's how these plants get pollinated. Not all species are actually self-fertile, though. Most of the mainstream ones, like incarnata, what you're seeing here, and tuberosa, which is the orange one, they tend to be they're very good about being self-pollinating. They can just go right with it. Some of the more finicky ones, like purple milkweed and red milkweed, I believe they actually do need to be cross-pollinated with something else. Or with another plant here. Down here we have the same species, but it's a cultivar. I forget the exact name. Ooh, down there. Let's walk down there a moment. This is a four-eyed beetle. Where's he at? Here we are. Let me actually grab him. Yeah. These are neat. You only find these around milkweed. And they get the name four-eyed beetle because if you actually look at the compound eye, the antennae socket there is actually coming right through that, so it looks like they have four eyes. And they're compound eyes, so technically they have a couple hundred or so. But it's really neat. But they you only find this beetle around milkweed. And sure enough, I only now started noticing it when I got milkweed planted. So I'd like to take some pictures of him, so hopefully it doesn't go anywhere. Put you down there. That's the first one I've seen this year. And down here we have another one. This is the milkweed leaf beetle, which also consumes the flowers, the leaves. Actually, if you have this species and you're trying to grow something like purple milkweed, it's good to get rid of these, because they will actually prevent them from flowering completely. But anyway, all the species associated with milkweed, they tend to be bright, showy, orange. They don't care, like, they actually, they don't hide, is what makes milkweed such a great plant, especially like a learning plant for, children and stuff. I'd say don't eat it. I mean, there is actually a recipe if you, boil the flowers in 3 different types of water or something. Actually, you can make something that's similar to broccoli, but it's like, why wouldn't you just grow broccoli and eat that? Because there is a chemical in this plant that is poisonous, and that's what all the bugs that eat this particular plant are trying to show off the fact that they're toxic to or bad tasting, and yeah. But ants also like to steal nectar from the flowers also. So let's see what else is good here. You can see attached to this bee's feet little pollen sacs, and sometimes they actually become attached to the flower for a moment as they get stuck in there. It just takes some time to get free, but milkweed tends to be a plant that worries beekeepers sometimes because they always think, oh no, their bees are getting stuck. And sure enough, you can find dead bees hanging from flowers, and the assumption is that they just got exhausted and, perished. In actuality, though, what's more likely to be happening, at least, they are in a bad situation and they make it an easy target for things like assassin insects. So the result is usually, sometimes you'll see plants that are just, they've got like a dead bee on every flower cluster, almost. So the afternoon shade has just hit the plants, and they've become very fragrant. And here's Tapenoma Cecily, a notorious nectar thief, going at it again. Also a little Ceanothrax. So I'm hoping to film, see how its leg got stuck between the flowers there? So in theory there should be little pollen sacs on that leg now. Assuming another bee hasn't already done that. Ooh, it poked in the arm with something. Just a mosquito. I don't see them on this bee. Honeybees and other things may have cleared them out. Good to see bumblebees, finally. Usually I see some queens in the springtime exploring. Yeah, that bee just had a bunch. Where are you going? Where are you going? Land somewhere, damn it. There we go. Alright, so on his legs, we have the little pollen plenia, or pollen sacs from this plant. And the idea is, as they walk around, they eventually get unhooked inside of different flowers. And that's how milkweed gets pollinated. Oh, the wind. So somehow or other, a caterpillar fell on this milkweed. Just looking at it, it's more than likely from the apple tree above. And the ants here have found it, which are Tapenoma Cecily. But that fly that was just here, I am told there's a group of flies that feed on dead termites and things in Africa, and they wait for ants to show up and kill them after they hear a nest getting disturbed here. So I wonder if we have a relative of that, or similar behavior, or flies that do similar things here in North America. Because I see that fly, even though I scared it off, he's still hanging around here on an adjacent pole. So it'd be neat to see that being the case. Let's see. He's making his way back up here. Now on the lower leaf. Yeah. Yeah, so they feed secondhand on things killed by ants. I have to keep an eye out for this behavior. He's certainly going after this fly here, or the dead caterpillar. Huh. I'm going to take some pictures. So on my apple tree here, I'm actually awkwardly stepping into the garden and bending a branch down. These are, I believe this is fall webworm, or some type of silk-producing caterpillar, anyway. Might be odd if they're fall webworm, but I think it's an unusual common name. it's odd because it's the start of summer, so... Actually, I think it's still technically springtime, but you get a lot of caterpillars that make little silken webs, and they do this so ants don't consume them. Because they're not poisonous, they're not, I mean, they're covered in little hairs, but they otherwise are very soft-bodied and have no defense against ants. And it's this type of species that I sometimes see Camponotus going nuts for. As soon as they find an opening in the little web, they'll pull the little guys right out. And these things, let's see, another spot here. They're usually very good about making little tents and filling them up with frass and such. And they do that as they move along the branch. There are also certain birds that specialized in tent-making caterpillars, but I don't see too many around. Probably because my dad goes a little fire crazy and tries burning these things. But I'm going to hopefully not let him do that this year, because I would like to have an apple tree. There you go. A little... Ah, here we are. Lacewing, I think. Some type of cricket or something? Something. Doesn't look fully developed, whatever it is, but anyway. So here are two leafhoppers. One is still a little nymph, the other one is more what you'd expect to find in an adult. All black with, looks like 2 yellow spots on it. They're on the Joe Pyeweed, which has brought some ants back to it, but I don't think they can actually feed on this plant. The majority of them are still up in the tree. So these two must have just fallen out or something, and yeah, they're trying to make do here. Alright, back under the eastern redbud we got the Joe Pyeweed, and it's neat seeing all the big leaves, aphid infestation. That is to say, that's where that was. The aphids have now completed their life cycle, and the Joe Pyeweed is moving on to flowering, which it usually does in the summertime, and it's right on schedule. But the Chromatogaster that were tending them have moved on to... Where are they at here? These little guys here. It's either a leaf or tree hopper. Though I'm told they're actually the same thing, but anyway. The nymph stages of those actually produce like a nectar or something to get ants to tend to them. I don't see that happening too much with the adults. At least not on this plant. They are on the tree above, but it's like... The tree is a little high, I know, and they only occur on like the new growth. And also the nodes of the new growth, so... Kind of like that. Over here we have the ephemeral garden. With all my trilliums and such. You can see the violets, which is the majority of that leaf there, actually filled in, but then we have trilliums. They're producing their seed pods now, and it's another one of those plants that are dispersed by ants. I can't really do that, but anyway, they're making little pods now. And I have different species that make different colored pods and stuff. So probably by the end of, or sometime in the middle of next month, I think that'll start dispersing and such. And not much else happening over here. I did have a purple milkweed come back, so I'm happy there, but that stuff is... if you have like even the smallest amount of insect herbivores, they don't really do that well. But anyway, other species of, I believe this is grandiflorum going to seed there. I think grandiflorum ripens earlier than the other species I have down there. But anyway, I will keep you all posted on that. It's neat seeing how different species sort of come in their own throughout the year, because here's more Camponotus suburbatus, and like when the year started, I remember I didn't find a whole lot. It was all, you know, Prolipus and Paris. And then it turned into, I tried baiting, and then that was like the first time I actually noticed Nylandria in the yard. And then it changed over to a variety of chromatogaster and tapenoma here and there. And now that things have gotten extremely hot, I see this species of Camponotus is all over everything now. So it's like they have different needs for sugars throughout the year. Their diet slightly changes. Possibly in relation to certain plants that they associate with, but I really wouldn't know enough to say that. But anyway, this is a species of Coreopsis that likes to spread by root suckers, which is why it sort of has made a huge patch here. Other species of Coreopsis, they kind of, for the most part, they just reproduce by seed. Now here's something that's not a Camponotus here. If I can get the autofocus. Yeah, it looks like a little Nylandria there. But anyway, now that this is flowering, we got all sorts of like hoverflies and stuff, all sorts of beneficial insects and dancing about here. They don't seem to like my camera very much. But anyway. Bee or something just flew at me. This is actually called false sunflower, or early sunflower, and it gets that name because if you actually look at the petals here, you can see little, actually let me pull this off. So it's false sunflower because if you look at each little petal here, there is actually a reproductive structure down inside there. And a true sunflower has rays that do not have any sort of reproductive structure. I don't have any actual sunflowers currently flowering, but that's why this particular one is, or this particular species is called false sunflower. It's because a true sunflower would never have the reproductive structure down in there. Yeah, but anyway, it's good for pollinators. I don't notice too much about with ants with it, though not all sunflower species are good for ants either. But yeah, something to notice here. You really see how the garden has changed. Not sure how to tell katydids and crickets and grasshoppers apart. I think this is a katydid, though. But anyway, it's not a whole family of insects that I pay much attention to, but my meadow garden certainly does produce a lot of them. There's one on a tall Coreopsis, though I'm not sure what type of plant it actually feeds on. I actually thought these eat grasses, and I don't really have any native grasses. Ah, like that. But anyway, insects like this, if they're not caught by ants in the younger stages, like right when they hatch, they slowly shed their skin as they grow into larger and larger versions of the adult, or until they are the adult. And things like that, even spiders do. And ants will actually eat the exoskeleton for little bits of nourishment here and there. And then eventually, when the insect expires, probably sometime in the fall, the ants are there to clean up after it. They keep the whole ecosystem going. Basically, all the food that gets produced from all these native plants and things, it eventually goes back to ants. Where are you? Oh, lightning bug. Or a lightning beetle. Type of fly flying around. Oh, we have an aphid. While they're waiting for insects to die, though, ants spend most of their time nectar scraping and searching for sources of nectar and stuff, and tending aphids, or specialized predators go after the soft-bodied arthropods, and the things that you usually find in old rotting leaf litter and stuff like that. Old logs, but they need to be usually a bit more temperament about temperature and such. It used to be a cold spot in the forest, or constantly damp throughout. Where are you at here? Type of parasitic bee. Neat seeing those. Ooh. Probably hatched out of one of my mason bee tubes, but I don't pay attention to that life cycle too much to say for sure. Problem with grasses and things is they grow tall and fall over, but I wanted to show this off. Or was it that brick over there? Oh, well, we'll find out here in a moment. Aha! Formica pallidifolva. I have not had a colony this far in my yard in quite a while. They used to always occur here. But I had a colony of slave-making ants come through the yard, and they basically wiped out all these nests here. So this is the first time I'm actually seeing Formica pallidifolva moving back in, and I see lots of reproductive brood here too. So that'll be cool. They'll be flying probably a month and a half or so. We're going to close these up ever so gently, just so they all get all these eggs and important queens and such back to safety here. And I have them climbing up my leg also, so we're going to fix that right now. Right next door to them, though, there's nobody. Okay, that's interesting. So, right next door to that, though, again, nobody. Very odd. There used to be a colony of Tetramorium here. And I mean, like, a big colony. I wonder what happened. Okay, I see foragers here, so... Ah, Tetramorium. Tetramorium. Here we are. An interesting thing about this species is they are currently flying. But you'll notice with this colony that the reproductive brood that's to be their queens and males and such are still in the pupa stage. Now here's one that's about to eclose fully and actually start walking around probably in another week or two. Colonies of this species actually, oh, I can see the ocilla and everything. The 3 dots on their forehead, that gives the ant heat vision. But it's neat because different colonies that are in different places will actually, they're like ahead of the game or they're behind the game, which is really neat. So I'm going to take some pictures of this, because this is New Jersey tea, which is it's becoming an uncommon shrub. But there are rare types of butterflies that lay their eggs on the white flowers to these particular types of plants. And if I can just hold this a little bit steady, you might actually be able to see a caterpillar to one in particular. And they fascinate me because ants tend them. Switching to my slightly better camera here. Actually, it's a good camera. Can't do much about the wind, but I discovered a second one on a different flower head. This one's a bit more green than the others. Let me actually hold this still if I can. It's hard to do because New Jersey tea is kind of a flimsy plant. Really, I can't hold this thing steady at all, goodness. Okay, so there's our caterpillar getting tended by Ceanothus suburbatus. Yeah. Alright, let me go back to test taking pictures of this, because I only get to see these things every so often. Actually, it might be a third one up here on another stem. Ants don't normally wander onto New Jersey tea, at least not that I've noticed, but so anywhere I see ants congregating, it becomes a place of suspicion. And I believe there is one right there on the stem. Let's see if I'm right here. Maybe I'm wrong. They might just be looking for more caterpillars. Yeah, alright. Have a look over there on the plant, see if I come up with anything. Alright, here is our first caterpillar. Apparently on this entire plant here, it's a 3x3 shrub. There are only 2 caterpillars on the entire thing. It shows kind of a low success rate, but not uncommon, because, 75 to 200 eggs or so that a moth might produce, a very low success rate, is kind of common. It would be nice if it was more than this, but what I think I'm going to do is take these 2, put them inside of a cage, and raise them on their host plant, because believe it or not, this caterpillar, despite only being the size of an ant, it's pretty close to the end of its this stage. So I've raised similar species to this before. They make, I mean, the chrysalis this thing makes, you wouldn't believe how tiny it is, but the butterfly that hatches out of it is actually just bigger than a US dime. Yeah, I'll have something to look forward to in a few weeks. So wish me luck with that. New Jersey tea, despite having such tiny, tiny little flowers, they actually do have an abundance of them, and they get swarms of these really tiny pollinators to them. Now, currently we're looking at a nectar thief, which would be Ceanothus coreopsis, a tiny little acorn ant. But these types of flowers that are just rich with pollen, or pollinators and such, they get all sorts of little communities of ecosystems happening here. It's a little late in the day for the tiny little bees that usually pollinate these plants, but on these types of plants you find here, I believe this is an assassin insect, or something that's pollinating a flower that I'm not familiar with. Actually, what is it doing? Actually, that might be, I don't know. Looks like an assassin insect to me, or an assassin bug, but I also get these weird little, like, pollen beetles and whatever this is, some type of fly. And it flew away. Kind of fighting the winds with this plant here. But yeah, there's all sorts of little tiny critters in there, little pollen mites and such, pollen beetles and some type of beetle there. But they're actually popular with pollinators. They just, this particular plant, unfortunately, farmers used to think, oh, that marked a good soil, which is probably true, because it tends to like good soil, but it's one of those plants that you just don't find too much of anymore. But anyway, here's our rare caterpillar. Oh, there's an ant in the way, but it's under there. So as more of the flowers have fallen off of the New Jersey tea, it rained pretty bad here yesterday. I'm slowly finding that there's actually maybe 6 more of these little caterpillars on this plant here. They do blend in pretty well, just forming odd little patterns here and there, and it's not something you'd ever notice unless you hung out for a bit. And I believe there's another one on another branch nearby. Let's see. Yeah, down here, there's one there. One here, and then we got one up here. It's kinda down there though, being tended to by a major. And then there's a little tiny one. Where are we at? There we are. A little tiny one on that stem. Oops. Lower the ISO because there actually is sunlight here. I'm always messing with settings because I take pictures periodically with this camera. Yeah, there's a little tiny one there. About as long as the ant tending it, maybe a little shorter. And then somewhere over here there was a bigger one. Where were you at? Where were you at? Somewhere. Ah, that's why. Other side of... Where are you? So I'm blocking the sunlight now, so we need to raise you back up. Yeah, there's one sort of on there. It's not a good spot. Ugh. And we're looking at the underside of the caterpillar, of course, making it even more difficult to see. Oh, that's convenient. But anyway, these are the types of caterpillars. They're going to drop off the plant at some point, make way for the next generation. Most caterpillars, when they get to the last instar, they don't stick on their host plant. You know, even though they can only eat this particular plant, they'll make a chrysalis on something else. You know, just get out of the way. And for a species like this, you could, I mean, they could make a chrysalis on a blade of grass, and you'd hit it with the mower, and you'd never know. So, when I find things like this, I like to take them inside, put them in a cage, or an outdoor screened cage they can't get out of in a sheltered area, and just let them, you know, take the 10 days or 14 days or whatever to develop naturally. I don't believe this species overwinters inside of an ant nest, so that's convenient. So I would like to try that at some point. Maybe not one of the ones that overwinters, just, you know, seeing if they go into an ant nest and steal the brood. And a cloud is overhead. Alright, so we're gonna look around for more stuff. Alright, it is summertime, which means species that fly tend to do so at night. And I have a blacklight set up over here. You can just show off. I don't have a proper sheet for this, so I'm just using like a regular bath towel, and it would work better if I had the lid actually hanging properly. I was out here a moment ago, and I ran in to grab my camera because we actually do have ants showing up here. See if I can locate them again. Give me just a moment. This is a male to what I believe is a Phytole species. And there's a second one right here. There was a queen Temnothrax somewhere around. Those are males there. Let's see if anything else shows up tonight. Well, you're colorful. And you glow. Neat. There's a male Campanatus, either Pensylvanicus or Chromiatus. Surprised to see them still flying. Well, this americanus has started flying. They have orange, or they have black males. There's a worker to Technoma Cecily, though I suspect it just crawled on from one of the adjacent pots and such. Let's see. Aha! A queen. This is a Ceanothus queen. Yeah, Phaidoli tend to be a little bit bigger than this. I believe this is a Ceanothus queen. Yeah, might as well collect her. Difficult to film this because I'm right-handed. I think it's a longhorn beetle. Landed on my hand. Let's get you off. Oh. There it goes. And that would be a Phaidoli queen. Good to see they're flying here. I have a small nuptial flight in the jar happening here. I think I have 2 species of Ceanothus in this jar. Because one of the queens is solid black, and the other ones are all like a brownish kind of color. So, let me collect a few of these. Ooh, a stained glass moth. No, ants. We gotta focus on the ants. Yeah, so I have like a little nuptial flight happening on this table here. Bunch of males. Bunch of queens. Black species is probably Longia something or other. And there's this other species, probably Coreopsis. I don't see too many more Phaidoli around, but there's like, yeah, I'm getting the whole swarm landing on this table, along with all the other stuff. The hole there is, I was trying to get the light to actually like sit in this hole here, which I could have done if I had like actually did a hole. But right now it's sort of turning into like this little mosh pit down there. Nothing really taking its wings off though, so some of it's probably not mated. What are you? Longhorn beetle? Anyway, I'm going to collect a few. And we'll see how the rest of tonight goes. Note to self, next time wear a shirt that does not glow. Getting covered in ants. We got one that removed her wings, so she's mated with, more than likely. Need to snag her. Other ones, though, I'm not quite sure of. Ooh, got like a male that showed up and died. So, it's happening. Most of these seem to be trying to take off. But before I lose sight... A June beetle, I think. I think that's what they're called. Let's zoom in a little here. Try not to crush anything. I see a few have removed their wings, such as her right there. Not really big on Ceanothus though, these little acorn ants. Actually, a fair amount have removed their wings, I see. That's nice. Very nice. Only the one Phaidoli queen so far, though. So that's, I guess they're just getting started in our area. Yes. Alright. Oh, so this is happening. How do you tell male from female? I guess the antenna. His are... No, they look identical. Wait, that's it? Okay. Some type of brooch. Alright, it has been like 2 hours since I've been doing this, and I just kind of come out and check every 15 minutes or so. I think I'm going to shut it down for the night, because I have way too many of everything that's here. And my camera is getting swarmed by bugs. But anyway, you see what happens when you blacklight. Lots of cool moths, beetles. Oh, there's a male, Campanus castaneus. I think they're the only species in North America with orange males. There was a black male here earlier, to one of the numerous other Campanatus in North America. But anyway, I'm going to shut it down for the night. Woke up to this morning. Poor caterpillar is trying to make a chrysalis, or a cocoon, and it's got 3 ants still trying to tend to it. Guess I should remove those. So now that all the flowers have faded over the course of this week here, caterpillars have moved on to nibbling on the leaves. You can kind of see one here at this stem. He's already chewed up this leaf and he's moved on. Looking for more stuff to chew. Heading back up to the flowers, looks like. Noticing fewer ants today, just because I guess they're not producing as much nectar. Flowers might be a requirement for that, but it could be that, or it could be this their age, because you know, this particular species, when they don't really get that big before they pupate and form a chrysalis or do anything like that. I do notice they do produce a certain amount of silk, so. Let's see what happens with these. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Guy likes to zip around.